Hey, welcome to Collaroy. Collaroy Plateau is named after a ship called the SS Collaroy, which ran aground on the northern sandbar of Longreef. Collaroy was the end of the road for the northern beaches up until World War II. Bushland covered the area and the surrounding region was relatively undeveloped up until this point prior to World War II. Weekenders without power or plumbing were scattered across the hilltop and the plateau area. And public transport was increased with the introduction of the Wakehurst Parkway shortly after World War II. Collaroy became an increasingly popular tourist destination and weekend for Sydney-siders. The picturesque location on the plateau was the ideal location for young couples to buy cheap land and begin building their own houses during the 1950s baby boomer era. They would often be seen walking up Wetherill Street and streets such as Stewart Street right here on their way to get to their new block of land where they were building their new home. They would construct their own half houses to live on the property as they helped or subcontracted out to other builders or tradespeople. The secluded nature of the area within Sydney, as well as the concentration of residents on the top of the hill, deposited seeds of what would become a tight-knit community where children were free to play on the streets and neighbours would frequently help one another in their building endeavours. Life growing up on the plateau was carefree for children living during the 1950s. Children laughed and ran through the bushes, going to the local waterfall behind the War Vets Retirement Village. Freedom typified the life of children. Freedom from fears and freedom from stranger danger, free from red tape and regulations as they could go home to lunch to their homes nearby the school. Students were given the autonomy to travel to and from school by themselves, sent off by their parents. During summer, children gathered wild bunches of wild beronia flowers, Christmas bells and flannel flowers, or they visited various areas such as Kangaroo Rock or Snake Cave, situated on Orlando Street. Exploring with a packed lunch from mum was a popular activity, as children would walk down the bush trails to the bushland owned by the Salvation Army. The roads were generally uncurbed dirt tracks, and this secluded nature of the plateau fostered a tight-knit community of young families that were separated in time and space from Greater Sydney. On top of the plateau, they also found them isolated from the rest of the northern beaches, bonding through backyards without fences into this surrounding bushland. This secluded ocean view community provided the essential elements that would permeate the ethos and atmosphere of Collaroy Primary School. The lifestyle of children from the school was embedded in the community, visiting one another's houses and creating various forms of entertainment from their own ingenuity. This is reflected in Sue Gamble's comments to follow.
Well, one big change I've noticed is that children used to walk home from school and walk to school. Very seldom would a parent escort a child. It was very free. There wasn't much traffic on the roads and it was regarded as safe. Most of the children lived very close to the school as they didn't have far to walk. It was a normal activity for kids to walk to school. Not many mothers worked. Most of the mothers used to be at home and didn't have cars. Usually if there was a car, the fathers would take it to work with them, so mothers would have to do their shopping locally.
In addition, freedom, fun and games characterise the lives of children on Collaroy Plateau. Games in the streets, games in the playgrounds and games in neighbours' backyards. Boundaries and fences were a rare sight as the entire plateau community was the children's playground. Sue Gamble once again reflects on her experiences growing up on the Collaroy Plateau playground.
Skipping was very popular, particularly in a group. We used to sing songs at the same time in a continual skipping relay. We played hopscotch and milkshakes. You used to stand on a fence, then someone would have to shake your hand up and down, then you would have to jump down and you would have to stand there. The person who fell over was the loser. Another game was statues. Most of the children had the same sort of home life and houses were pretty much the same. Everyone sort of knew each other, and even though parents didn't always know each other, the children did. You knew where people lived and you went to each other's houses after school. It was a very relaxed atmosphere. Most people had ordinary homes and had similar lifestyles and families.
In a time when the latest technology included typewriters and record players, and God Save the Queen was still sung during school assembly. Collaroy Plateau Primary School was officially opened on August 22nd, 1953. The opening of the school was aimed to cater for the growing number of families on the plateau establishing themselves. The school's opening was celebrated by eating cake and planting trees. By 1956, the teachers at the school were Mr. Hartnett, Mr. Young, Mr. Warboyce, who was the principal, Mrs. O'Shaughnessy, and Mrs. Redpath, Mrs. Bruce, and Mrs. Warboyce, looking after a grand total of 86 pupils. At this time, there wasn't even a school canteen, can you believe it? But no need to stress, a lady would deliver sandwiches at the gate at recess, along with milk during lunch. Hopscotch, chasing, cricket, square dancing, softball and netball were all popular games played by students in these days, and for the staff and students trying to stay warm in winter on the windy plateau was essential. Students would gather sticks throughout the playground and on the outskirts of the school grounds, and the teachers would assemble these sticks and place them in the in-class fire-lit ovens that were in the classrooms. By the 1970s, Collaroy Plateau Public School was flourishing. Overhead projectors were becoming teachers' best friends, along with the trusty handheld calculator. Enrolment at this time had skyrocketed to 610 students, and at this time jelly pads and self-inking paper, as well as Gacettinus Spirit duplicating machines, were instruments that teachers used to photocopy and reproduce worksheets. The classrooms were being fully utilised, and in 1973 the beautification master plan was beginning to take place for the Year 6 classrooms. The Year 6 classrooms were being carpeted and the library was being developed, and asphalt was replacing the grass because of frequent cracking. Most importantly, the canteen began functioning. Meat pies were a special treat, and for some students this was the absolute highlight of their week. The 1990s marked the end of the building program on the plateau, and student numbers stabilised at the end of the baby boomer era. The technology once again began to change as the MacBook computers were replaced with PC computers because of their new technology with Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. This time period also marked a time of relocation and refurbishment for the school. Before and after school care moved to the newly refurbished area, and the old office, staff room and classrooms were all refurbished. The new library was completed in 1998 and was ready for functioning in 1999. In addition to all these changes in resources, most of the blackboards were removed and are replaced with whiteboards. The 2000s marked a time of further technological development. Smartboards were installed and replaced with whiteboards, and laptops were handed out as a government initiative. The computer room was established in Block B, and the new hall was built replacing the cricket nets and the toilets. The K2 shade shelter was built, and the new demountable opposite the library arrived. The bush garden area was opened up as a play area, and the Year 3 to 6 toilet area was painted by the parents, and the biannual Collaroy Carnival was programmed. The local primary school has seen some very successful alumni pass through their school gates. One such alumni is Australia's World Cup Wallabies coach, Rod McQueen. McQueen, between 1997 and 2001, helped Australia to retain every major international rugby title available. McQueen's innovative strategies, outsourcing of expertise coaching, and his ability to unify the team towards a common goal provided the ingredients needed for the unmatched success of the Wallabies throughout this time period. The greatest achievements during this era was the Wallabies World Cup victory in 1999. Have a look at this video and check it out.
We were expecting to play the All Blacks. We'd done all our homework on the All Blacks and very little on France, and so our video guys, etc., had to stay up all night and really prepare something for the team after we found out who'd won the semi-final.
Both these teams want to run the ball.
They were a very unpredictable team, so we actually then we chose that day to play our own game.
Larkin's kick charged down by Lamizon, and away goes Herbert. Horan's outside him. Giroud. Bernard Sallow getting across.
It was never going to be easy. I think we're always a team that was reasonably confident.
Good continuity now from the Australians, almost clear back there. on, now this is really dangerous. Oh, Regan looking the wrong way, then going itself. Moran, Finnegan, right in the corner.
Look, everyone was very calm, and we knew we had a job to do.
Quick one from Castanet, Benazzi, but the pass goes into touch. And that is it. Andre Watson brings down the cut on the 1999 Rugby World.
The building developments and the successful alumni from Collaroy Plateau Primary School show a picture of what the school is all about. However, to further understand the school, we need to look at the school's involvement in community and their role in community between the students, staff and teachers. This school is a local school created by a tight-knit community for a tight-knit beach community. The school has weaved a rich tapestry of excellence in leadership, close connections between students and staff, dedicated to community involvement, and the development of children as learners who are embedded in their communal activities. To understand a group or an organisation, it is helpful to identify the foundations on which it was built. Now, having addressed the literal foundations of the school building projects, let's take a further look into the seeds of leadership nurtured in the school's fledgling years. Terry Hill was the first school captain of Collaroy Plateau Primary School in 1961. At this time, the principal was Mr. Glastonbury. His experience was one of having lots of fun with both students and the teachers. And once again, his memories of playing brandings, chasings, rugby, cricket and touch footy shows the active and fun nature of the school. A particular memory Terry recalled was when two escaped convicts, Simmons and Newcomb, were using the school as a hiding place from the authorities, and the school had to be evacuated. Importantly, Terry Hill's comments on being school captain reflect the integrity and value that he placed on leadership in the school. He says, "It was an honour to be the first school captain at the school." This sentiment is reflected by the notes of the Department of Education school inspector, who wrote in April 1960, "Teachers and pupils form a friendly community, where disciplinary problems are few, these being handled in a calm and reasonable manner. Pupils are generally an active but thoughtful and courteous group, and strong pride in the school has been developed, and classroom time is usually one of earnest endeavour." From the earliest days of the school's formation, we see a trend of community that was committed to fun, learning, excellence in all of their pursuits. The connection between teachers and students is intrinsically linked in the DNA of the school community. Now, the Plateau already held this village-like presence because of its geography and its formation. But teachers within the school gates further enriched the experience of the students. They developed them as learners, but also as valued individuals in the community. This could not be expressed more beautifully than Jill Forrester's written in-person impressions of Mr. Dimmick. Mr. Dimmick was a teacher and principal from 1968 to 1970. She described how his physical appearance described the type of man he was. He was tall, robust, but not really overweight. A friendly brown, square face, signifying his love for outdoor sports. Large square hands with the tops of 2 fingers missing because of an accident during his time in the Air Force. Jill recalled, "I liked the way his face wrinkled when he laughed. And thinking back now, I can't even remember what he looked like when he was angry." Mr. Dimmick left lasting impressions on the students because of his demeanour and his role as an example for the youth. The students were especially fond of his acts of kindness when Jill reminisced about how one day he bought 40 ice cream boxes for the students for a class. In surprise and thankfulness, Jill exclaimed, "We could hardly believe our ears and wondered if he really meant it." We were astounded as we had never had a teacher who'd done anything like that before. Mr. Dimmick also brought innovation into the learning experience of the school. Previously, the school hadn't engaged in school excursions, and he changed that by taking the 6th graders to Warragamba Dam. He also inspired the students to do the school musical of Oliver. The stories of teachers such as Mr. Dimmick, whose friendly demeanour, genuine compassion for the students, and courage to undertake new school activities and productions left lasting impacts on the school on the students that they taught. It is these types of teachers who have left lasting legacies of sacrifice and service that has formed the nature of the school to this day, and this is just one such example that represents the nature of the teaching staff throughout the school's history. Okay, the teachers at Collaroy Plateau Primary School have continually embedded themselves into the local community. This tradition was carried through into the present, as in the 2000s, the school has 2 school choirs, 2 dance groups, a band, a chess club, and a multitude of sports to participate in. This is also reflected through Mrs. Lorelli, a school music teacher, who began her career on the Plateau in 1985. She reflected in our interview on the nature of what school was like when she began teaching.
I came from a challenging school to this school that was children beautifully behaved. I came from a school when you rang the bell, no one ever took any notice of you, and they kept running around and screaming and hitting each other and so on, to a school that was like, oh, this is absolutely beautiful.
Lorelli was reflecting on the ways students grow and learn. She identified how students in her choir grew in confidence to develop their visual skills, their language, and their reading and social skills. Children who were involved in band and music studies developed in their confidence, she said. Mrs. Lorelli reflected on a story of a student who she had taught with high anxiety issues, and then she grew to get up before audiences and perform. Mrs. Lorelli also discussed the beauty of the performing arts and in overcoming fears and conquering students' fears. Mrs. Lorelli also has been involved in teaching an adult choir of 55 people. This is a local community choir that meets in Collaroy Plateau Hill. The group has been running for 19 years, and at one stage the group boasted up to 100 members. The group would visit retirement villages among other venues and sing to the residents. Mrs. Lorelli described how she had witnessed singing being therapeutic and good for the soul, and good for social interactions as well. Her endeavours over her career displays a snapshot of the impact the school has had on the local community and the role that the local community has had in the school. Our interview concluded with Mrs. Lorelli expressing that teachers are special people, they are humanitarians. After teaching for 50 years, she concluded, what am I going to do when I've spent most of my life teaching children? The imprint that students have had on teachers in this school is evident in the same way that teachers have impacted their students. This connection between students and staff has formed a bond and a fabric of the school that has firmly planted this school as a village within the village of Collaroy Plateau. The Plateau's formation as an end-of-the-road suburb hosting a small community of baby boomers created the fertile soil for childlike fun and games to be played in the surrounding bushland. The Plateau's relative isolation allowed residents to get to know one another as a close community throughout the suburbs, and development flowed in the establishment of the public school. The school became a story of connection. Connection with the local community through recreational pursuits, clubs and churches, and connection between members of the school community, students, teachers, parents and staff, and the interactions that have intertwined themselves with the local community has made the school what it is today. This has created the bustling and energetic, welcoming school that we know as Collaroy Plateau Primary. It is a village within a village, and this is part of the story of Collaroy Plateau Primary School. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I just want to give a special thanks to Kristen and the other members of Collaroy Plateau staff who helped me gather these sources and who already are archived and use these sources on the digital database, so I could simply collect it all and then present it as a video. I just want to give a special mention to Isaac. Thank you so much for your filming and your editing skills for helping me out with that.